Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.
Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Jean Till, and on today's show, we have a very special guest, Archbishop Thomas Zinkula, the newly installed Bishop of Dubuque.
We're looking forward to speaking with Archbishop Zinkula, a very familiar friend. But, Jean, good to be with you in November. The football playoffs winding down. We think of some of our parochial schools, and their seasons ended, but also some of our other schools in the diocese, in Bedford and Creston. Great success as well. So congratulations to them, as well as some of the cross-country runners who also concluded on a very good note. Anticipating Thanksgiving already. Can this be? You don't take a Thanksgiving break. Are you the chef for Thanksgiving or
no? We're going up north today this year for Thanksgiving. So to John's brother and his wife's family.
Very good. So up in Northwest Iowa, so the Sioux City Diocese. So you don't need a passport to go there.
I do not.
Okay, very good. And concluding the confirmation season in early November, it was great to be with the St. John Greenfield folks. St. Francis of Assisi had a large cohort there in West Des Moines. And also then at Holy Trinity. And so we'll go, the confirmation thumb will be still for 3 months here, and then we'll resume a little bit before Lent in the next year, and then to pause during the season of Lent. Time of those annual meetings coming together and kind of the priorities, the engagement of the church with issues in our culture and all that's about. Our Iowa Catholic Conference preparing their agenda for the upcoming legislative session. Renewing some of our priorities and emphasizing them with a new fervor. Public policies should assist parents in exercising their rights as the primary educators of their child. Now, of course, with the education savings accounts, but all the more that freedom of choice in that regard. Funding for low-income preschool students, looking at initiatives that will make health care more readily available, including especially the mental health care. I think that dovetails well with the U.S. bishops and their priorities, the Committee on Domestic Justice and Human Development with Archbishop Gudziak, and the campaign that we've had this past month and all that's there. Of course, palliative care and hospice service. We want to protect the human rights of all immigrants. We know that even in Iowa, the trafficking of persons, labor and sex trafficking, passing through on the interstates and all that there. So I think, continuing to be a champion and advocate, raising awareness and having laws that protect them. In light of the immigrant situation, and it's probably a little bit more evokes mixed reactions, but I think very strongly that sense of the repeal of the English-only law is something that, people speaking their native tongue, that we will be hospitable and welcoming as a people of the state and, of course, as a church also. So I think, that kind of that exclusiveness of English, obviously we want people to be able to acquire that language skill, but in that ways in which they're there. Of course, assisting persons reentering the community from incarceration, maintaining a progressive tax code, and measures to protect and improve the quality of air, water, and land in the spirit of our Holy Father's exhortation, Laudate Deum. Of course, we're really just kind of wrapping up this week, the U.S. Bishops' Fall meeting, and anticipating that in Baltimore, always celebrating the birthplace of the American Church. The Eucharistic revival emphasis continues.
Yes.
And, continuing to be mission sent, anticipating next summer when there'll be a little of a procession that comes through with southwest part from Omaha, Council Bluffs, winding its way down.
We're planning on being there, a cohort from St. Teresa's.
All right.
Yes.
Excellent. So, and an overnight stop, and then on to Shenandoah and Hamburg. So, very good. Continuing to look at other ways to promote the faith, the bishops talking about the Institute on the Catechism, mentioned the mental health campaign, consultation on the beatification cause for servant of God Isaac Thomas Hecker, famous son of German immigrants born in New York City, and founded the Missionary Society of St. Paul the Apostle. So very good. And, of course, support for the English bishops and the proclamation of St. John Henry Newman as a cardinal and doctor of the church. And then again, most to work with the indigenous people and to end racism. So a lot on our plate, but worthy issues to engage in.
I'm tired.
The gospel's woven in through all of that. So
That's a lot. Oh, my goodness.
There we go.
When we return, we will be visiting with Archbishop Thomas Zinkula, the newly installed Archbishop of Dubuque. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. And on today's show, we're visiting with Archbishop Thomas Zinkula, the newly installed Archbishop of Dubuque.
Good morning, Archbishop Zinkula, and we could easily lapse into calling each other by our first names, but we'll be very polite on the air and respectful. Congratulations to you being installed as the Archbishop of Dubuque, getting settled in your office there, that transition that you've undertaken. We were kind of joking a little bit. Archbishop Jekyll's, your predecessor, was known to be an in-your-face Nebraska fan, and our Spirit Catholic Radio listeners would be happy about that. Any remaining residue or effects suggesting Nebraska?
Not in the office itself, but there's a little kitchenette thing for people's staff, and I was looking for something the other day, and in a upper cabinet in the back there's Nebraska stuff, half a dozen different things. So,
and we'll be auctioning that off for anyone to bid as a fundraiser.
Right. Used by Archbishop Jekyll.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Relic.
There you go. Good. Well, you are a man of this state, Iowa, the soil of Iowa, a farm outside of Mount Vernon, Iowa. Your numerous siblings and the kind of whole ethic of your life growing up, your parents and all. How did that kind of maybe leave some mark on you? I mean, obviously, in many ways it formed you, but, we think about kind of this attitude, relating to siblings and justice and what's fair and, and our sense, the readings recently talk about not being too partial, that we're all brothers and sisters. But all of this not always just among brothers and sisters. How did that maybe kind of shape who you are?
In a huge way, and I was formed and molded in that setting. It's an old farmhouse. So there's 9 of us, 5 girls and 4 boys, and there was upstairs. There was a hallway and a kind of half bathroom and 2 big rooms, and one was for the boys and one was for the girls. And I was the oldest boy, so there was a lot of togetherness, and it was not well insulated, so it was cold in the winter and hot in the summer, and you didn't spend a lot of time up there, except for fall and spring maybe. But kids these days go to college and they have to share a room with somebody, and that's like traumatic. When I went to college, it was so wonderful because not only did I only have to have one roommate versus 3, I had my own bed for the first time.
Oh my goodness!
So, because I had to sleep with my little brother in the imaginary line and stuff. So I know that line. Setting, in that setting, you learned how to sort things out. You have fights and it's all, all that kind of stuff for sure. But you've got to learn how to get along and compromise, and it's just natural. So I think, young people these days they're not as socialized as well. They have a hard time with some of the soft skills. In that setting, you just learn them. So that was a blessing for me, and just in all aspects of my life, ever after.
Oh, that's marvelous. And so your parents didn't have to police you too often, kind of work it out among yourselves sometimes.
Kind of. They were busy doing things, and, they yelled at us sometimes, and the rest of them, never at me, of course. But,
of course. No,
you just learn how to get along and figure it out. And it's not always pretty and, whatever. But we're pretty tight now, as adults, and so it's really, really good. It
was beautiful to see many of your siblings, if not all, at the installation mass and the Vespers, and obviously they were beaming, but to them you're just another brother, right? In some ways, there's not undue respect for you.
Right, it's always been that way. Yeah, and the other, whatever they've glad that see me be in the positions of authority and trust in me for that. But also I'm just Tom to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Marvelous. The Vesper service, the kind of the tradition of a Vesper service where you're received in your own cathedral, and then you presided and preached there, sharing stories of the influence of Monsignor Robert Faring, familiar and fondly remembered by both of us as a member of our initial prayer group almost 30 years ago. While we don't have the time maybe to unfold the whole story and have you preach a homily to us, how maybe was the proposal of priesthood, at one point in your life, but then it became something real and attractive for you?
Yeah, so he put it out there. He was my parish priest, my pastor when I was in high school, and he put it out there for me. There's probably some vocation program, and pastors are supposed to have names into the Archbishop, and so I got a letter from the Archbishop, and that planted the seed. I hadn't thought about the priesthood ever at all before that. I was a shy, quiet kid. I couldn't imagine myself in that public role. But so then there it was, and I didn't do anything with it. I just kind of like, no, this isn't me. But it was there, and I felt, I don't know, I was like, wow. So then, and Father Monsignor Faring he's a great role model for me. He's a common sense farm kid from Northeast Iowa, played baseball, semi-pro baseball, but he's bright, and he went to, got a PhD and taught at Loras before he became pastor in Mount Vernon, after teaching a number of years, and so then it wasn't until like 10 years later, I was a senior in high school and I got that letter, and then 10 years later I was practicing law in Cedar Rapids, and that's when I discerned, that I was being called to the priesthood. And so I went to visit. The first person I told was Monsignor Faring. I remember the day after Christmas in 1985, and so he's always that seed was planted. That was a big deal, and also just his modeling of the priesthood. That really, it struck me, and I noticed, and it made a difference.
Yeah, I think you've captured the soul of the man in a beautiful way, and that, not by accident did God have him on your path, and all that was there. Well, from there, on to seminary, obviously theological college, the Catholic University of America, ordained, and parish service right away, but really such a diverse, different ministries that God asked of you through the Archdiocese, rural and city parishes. You did go on for further studies to get a canon law degree and to serve as judicial vicar. And then in your last phase in Dubuque as seminary rector. How does all of this, 5 rural parishes, merging parishes, all of that maybe kind of shape you, your perspective, and equip you to be the bishop, the archbishop now, and maybe get you some street cred with your own priests?
Yeah, as I look back on my life, in terms of, we were just talking about my vocation story somewhat. When I was ordained a priest in those early years and reflecting on things and looking back, my whole life was preparing me to be a priest. I didn't see it at all until I was 28, But as I look back, it was, other than taking German rather than Spanish in high school, that was a mistake. But
who could see? Who could be that clairvoyant?
Yeah.
I know. Dang it! I took German because my parents on my mother's side were, they all came from Germany. That side, and they spoke German. On my dad's side, they spoke Czech, and so my grandparents. So it was just a natural thing to study German as before. So many people came here, from migrants from Latin America. But yeah, my whole life is preparing me to be a priest, I think, and in different ways. I see it actually more and more clearly over the years. And then, likewise, my whole priesthood was kind of preparing me for the role of bishop. Obviously, I wasn't thinking about that at all, and I wasn't along the way. Because I look back, all those things that you mentioned, they're all are helpful for me, in terms of my role as in Davenport now in Dubuque.
Oh, that's tremendous. And, bringing, 3 parishes where they had strong parochial identity, kind of defined themselves in part by what they were not, and yet being able to overcome that and the work of the Holy Spirit. That took a great deal of patience. Did it take some courage on your part? Merging
those parishes was the hardest thing I did as a parish priest. It was the hardest thing I had to do. One parish kind of fought it. It was the smallest one, and there was a few people that were just really difficult to work with, and they kind of poisoned the well. And so that was really hard. But yeah, you get through it, and it was the right thing, and they're doing well today in that merged parish. But I think it helped me to be going through that experience. I'm more able to be more conversant, with pastors and these other situations now here in Dubuque and in Davenport as well. When I was there, I can can maybe grasp their situation a little more easily, because I can relate to some of those same things that they are struggling with that I did back then. Ask better questions, I don't know, be a better accompanier. Obviously I can't fix things, but
you are a Francis Bishop, right?
Yeah.
Company. So not just the instincts of the old defensive lineman just knocking people down to get to your objectives, right? You have to bring them along.
I've discovered you have to it needs to be a little more nuanced and, delicacy.
You served for 6 years in the Davenport Diocese. I think one of the hallmarks of the Davenport, going back generations, is their commitment to social justice. I mean, I think that's something that every diocese and the Church Universal is about. But that was, I think, a particularly good fit for you, given your own passions and things. What were, some of the things that I think you as a shepherd were able to engage, and maybe some of the people and venues, and how do you see this maybe carrying over as you're back in Dubuque?
Yeah, and, in terms of Francis Bishop or whatever, going to the peripheries really resonates with me. That's sort of been part of my modus operandi kind of my whole life, especially when in seminary. I worked with this place called Gift of Peace, run by the Missionaries of Charity, or Mother Teresa's order for people who are dying. That was part of the program, the seminary program. I spent an afternoon there a week with my first year, and I worked at Covenant House, and I wanted to go there and Covenant House in New York City for homeless kids, street kids, runaway kids. I asked to go there one summer during seminary because I just wanted to, I wanted to volunteer there. And so things like that over the years, that's always been part of my ministry as a priest. And so it's natural for me to pick up on that, as a bishop. And so I'm going to the peripheries, whatever that might be, there, the Hispanic community, they're definitely on the periphery, given their situation, and immigrants and getting pulled into those kinds of things. There's 4 prisons in the Diocese of Davenport, so I try to get there at least once a year to each of those prisons and minister to prisoners and the poor and the homeless. You only have so much time, of course, but those are things that I could easily be talked into doing.
You had a good relationship with the Catholic Worker House in Iowa City as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they were really doing wonderful things, especially with the Hispanic community there, and they get into justice sometimes. And I had a good relationship with them. And sometimes they're like, "Okay, you guys are kind of crossing the line a little bit here," but they had respect for me. I had respect for them. It was really good, and they worked with our parishes, especially in that part of the state, and so that's always been. And you're right, that has been sort of the flavor of the diocese, especially in St. Ambrose, the university. There's always that Father Monsignor Moddett, was a big kind of force in that arena.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the university. You had a close relationship and a capacity with St. Ambrose University, a diocesan college, and now returning with Loras College. Is that an environment that you appreciate engaging, or do you kind of say, as long as things are going smoothly, I'll leave them alone?
No, I do it. I enjoy it very much. When I was a priest in Archdiocese, I got kind of pulled into ministry over at Clark University, and campus ministry initially. Is a priest. Well, Father John Nauman died. He'd been the chaplain over there, and there's a gap. You went over there, didn't you?
I was 7 years as chaplain, while I was still at Loras. Yeah, so very much.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then I remember when he died, the parochial vicars each had a weekday mass. You were part of that, weren't you?
Yes, occasionally. Boy, you're dipping back into the memory.
Yeah, no, you would.
So many masses.
You would have a day. And so I kind of got pulled into that, and then I was on their board, and I enjoyed that very much. And then, with Loras, I was obviously near as well as you were over there. But as rector of the seminary, you kind of get pulled into things, not the academic side as much, but more the, student life and the campus ministry things. And then at Ambrose, I was, as the bishop, you're the chair of the board automatically, whether you have the gifts for that or you want that or not. So, and I enjoyed it very much. I would be a part of that, and then also I'd get involved with campus ministry. Not a whole lot because they only have so much time.
Yeah.
But no, it's kind of it's like as a priest.
Archbishop, we'll maybe pick this thread up after we take a little pause here. Okay.
We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
Thanks for remaining with us, Archbishop Zinkula. Every bishop has a heart, wants to see men hearing and having the opportunity to be called to priesthood and to form them in the best way. That would be one priority, perhaps, but when you had your initial press conference, you said you had no agenda, but now already immersed in it, how is the Spirit speaking to you and beginning to see needs and how you're going to devote yourself as shepherd to your people?
Yeah, so for me to come in here and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do, and it would be pompous and ignorant, I think. Obviously we have our mission to, go out and spread the good news, Jesus Christ, the joy of the gospel, so there's that. But obviously there's things, that I know that we have to kind of deal with. But so I've been going around to the different deaners, I've been to 2 of them so far, and just getting reacquainted with the priests and asking them, what are the things. I have a few questions that I ask them, and then one of them is what should we be focusing on. So I'm listening. I'll go to all those, and I have early next year we'll have a priest council meeting and archdiocesan pastoral council meeting. So there's a priest, the main consultative group, and then the laity, those 2 groups. And okay, here's what I've heard, and but there's obvious things. There's parish planning. I'm hearing a lot about that. They've kind of been talking about that a lot here. They use the synodal process kind of for that, and so that's on people's minds. There's communication. The witness went away. The archdiocesan paper, and so now there's a gap there, and people are recognizing that. So we need to look at that. And just evangelization in general. We're all concerned about our shrinking church and, people drifting away, not just young people, but especially young people. And so those are things I'm hearing at this point. Yeah. And so we need to be listening to the Holy Spirit too, right? In terms of what we should focus on and where we should go with some of these things. It's kind of trying to be organic about it, and so that's kind of where that's at.
Yeah. So you speak about listening to the Spirit, obviously through consultation with clergy and laity, but how in your own spirituality and prayer life? People might want, your high, intense public life in the office. How do you kind of nurture that life of prayer and your intimacy with Christ?
Yeah, so to be honest with you,
you'd expect nothing less.
Heaven forbid. No, to be honest, so contemplative prayer has always been kind of the center. It's obviously there's liturgy of the hours and there's math and everything else. But in terms of personal prayer, so it's contemplative prayer, and 9 times out of 10, if I sit in a chair in a quiet place, and at this point in my life, an old geezer, I start dozing off, right? So I'm having to.
I hear you, brother. I hear you.
Yeah. So I still do that, but I can't depend on that as much, and so I've been working on that the last while, and kind of maybe have something to read and kind of reflect on that. Actually, or maybe, one thing about coming back to Archdiocese, I love to go out to the mines of Spain, this beautiful nature area, and Swiss Valley, and even walk. I remember Monsignor Faring, speaking of him, he would talk about going for walks with Jesus and recognizing that, just kind of imagining Jesus walking with him and having a conversation. And so that's kind of become more of a thing for me. And and whatever. One thing, like,
and then Archbishop, unfortunately, we're going to have to wind it down here. So we'll leave people wanting more, and we'll have to bring you back in a year and see how it's unfolding. But last question: which county is harder to ride the bike in, Scott County or Dubuque County?
Dubuque County, easily, you know that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Actually, I was glad when I went to Davenport. I have easier roads and things for biking. And now, so like as I'm getting older, but now it's like, oh God.
Well, I know you're a tough hombre in the saddle. So anyway, thank you so much for making time for us. Blessings in your ministry, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, this has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. Thank you to Archbishop Zinkula and to all of our listeners in Iowa and Nebraska, Wisconsin, or wherever you may be listening to Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.